Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce the Deputy First Minister and Cabinet Secretary for Education, Mr John Swinney.
Thank you very much, Mr President. It's a pleasure to be with you today and to have the opportunity to engage in what I recognise and acknowledge is a vital part of my responsibilities as the Education Secretary, to listen to and to engage in active discussion with the teaching profession about the challenges that we face in Scottish education and how I can address the issues and the questions and the challenges that face the profession and face the education system as we work together on our shared and common agenda of ensuring that education in Scotland meets the needs of all of our young people and provides them with all of the attributes and the elements which enable them to fulfil their potential. And I want to talk today about some of the current issues that prevail within the education system and also reflect on some of the foundations of where we are in the education debate today. And the start of that for me is around what I think is the central issue that we address, and that's the effectiveness and the approach that we take to ensuring that the needs of young people are met through a strong and a bold curriculum that will equip them for the challenges of the 21st century. And when I came into office 2 years ago and looked carefully at much of the original work that had been undertaken to design Curriculum for Excellence, and as I've reflected on the debate, as I've taken part in various wider international discussions about our curriculum and engaged with our International Council of Education Advisors and engaged at the International Summit of the Teaching Profession with counterparts in government and also within the trade union movement around the globe, my reflections are that Curriculum for Excellence gives us in Scotland a really strong foundation to meet the needs of young people through the education system. Because what Curriculum for Excellence is designed to do is to ensure that young people have the ability to create the skills and the attributes to deal with an ever-changing world, but whilst being grounded in the foundations of learning and the elements of learning which are critical to ensuring that they are able to fulfil their potential. So that blend within Curriculum for Excellence of the strong foundations of emphasis on literacy, numeracy and health and well-being are associated with the acquisition of the skills and the attributes that are necessary to ensure young people are able to fulfil their potential. It says to me that we have in place a model of curriculum design that is appropriate for the times that young people face. And when I look at the international evidence, when I reflect on the feedback from the International Council of Education Advisors, they would agree with that assessment, that the curriculum reform that was undertaken long before I took office as Education Secretary and which engaged the profession heavily, has been curriculum reform that has equipped Scotland and our young people well for the future. But the success of Curriculum for Excellence relies on the professional capability of the members of the teaching profession, and it relies fundamentally on the sense of empowerment within the profession to be able to bring that curriculum to life in an effective way for young people. So there is no prospect, and I assure you of this point today, of me leaving the SSTA Congress today and going off and deciding to prescribe from St Andrew's House what should be the contents and the basis of the curriculum, because that would essentially fly in the face of the key attributes and strengths of the curricular approach that we have taken forward through Curriculum for Excellence. But what I will do is concentrate my efforts on ensuring that I support the development of the professional capacity and capability of the teaching profession, because it will be on that investment that the success of Curriculum for Excellence will be founded. And in taking forward that agenda, it's essential, in my view, that we have an education system that is able to reflect that sense of empowerment in every single classroom in our country, so that we work towards the creation, as my reform agenda is designed to do, to the creation of a school-led, empowered education system where schools have the flexibility to act to meet the needs and the circumstances of the young people that present themselves in their schools, where professionals are supported to enhance the quality of learning and teaching in individual schools, and where we invest to strengthen leadership throughout the education system, in every aspect of the education system, and not just where we have invested in the past to strengthen leadership, which has been in administrative leadership within education. And I want to talk a bit more about the work that is currently underway to strengthen leadership throughout the system, and particularly classroom leadership and subject leadership and professional leadership within the education system. And why does all of this matter? Well, all of this matters because it will be central to our work to deliver what I consider to be the purpose of Scottish education today, and that is to deliver excellence and equity for all throughout our education system. We're in a moment, one of the things that struck me in my 2 years as Education Secretary is the constant debate about what should be the proper focus of education. And on any given day of the week, I will have a multiplicity of different perspectives put to me about what should be the purpose and the focus of education within Scotland. And I reflect on these points, I consider them, but the government has to nail its colours to the mast. It has to set out what the direction of travel is going to be. And the government has set out a very consistent and clear direction of travel for this parliamentary term, which is the pursuit of excellence and equity for all within Scottish education and the closure of the poverty-related attainment gap. And the strength of the position that we have today is that that outlook from government is not just my view, it's a view that is strongly endorsed by our local authority partners. It is an approach shared and endorsed by our professional associations. And indeed, in the work that I'm taking forward through the establishment of the Scottish Education Council, which brings together professional associations with local authorities, with government, with our specialist organisations, the SQA, Education Scotland, the schools of education, and pupils and parents all coming together to discuss the direction that we should take in Scottish education. That agenda of pursuing excellence and equity for all is an agenda broadly shared and endorsed by all of our partners. So we are in the fortunate position today, I believe, that Scottish education has a really clear direction of travel for this parliamentary term, which is about the pursuit of excellence and equity for all in the objective of closing the poverty-related attainment gap. And the work that has been undertaken through the National Improvement Framework, which I see reflected in the improvement plans being undertaken by the schools that I visit around the country, is a really encouraging indication of the support within the profession for to ensure that we fulfil that objective, and as a consequence, do all that we possibly can to transform the life chances of young people in our country, and particularly the young people that are coming from backgrounds of disadvantage, to be able to have access to the power of education to overcome the inherited disadvantage that they have started off their education with. So those conclusions have led us as a government to the investment that we have made in the Scottish Attainment Challenge and through pupil equity funding. The Scottish Attainment Challenge providing very focused support in a number of local authority areas and in a number of schools where we have particular challenges of disadvantage to overcome. And I want to thank the profession for the way in which it has engaged so constructively in trying to ensure that the Scottish Attainment Challenge makes that profound impact in some of the areas of particular disadvantage. And through pupil equity funding, we've been able to direct funding to over 96% of schools in Scotland, driven by the presence of poverty and disadvantage in those particular schools to varying degrees around the country, but crucially providing the flexibility to individual schools to determine how they can best use, in some cases, some very significant amounts of resources to invest in overcoming the challenges and the barriers that some young people face in their access to education. So the Scottish Attainment Challenge and pupil equity funding have assisted us. They've given us the tools to be able to directly confront some of the examples and instances of poverty that present themselves in our education system, but which cannot all be solved within our education system, but through the Scottish Attainment Challenge and through pupil equity funding, we can utilise a very focused approach to try to maximise the effect of our interventions to ensure that young people are able to overcome the barriers and the obligations and obstacles that are created by poverty in their educational journey. And that, of course, comes alongside a range of other policy interventions that the government is taking forward. In our agenda on tackling child poverty, in our agenda in tackling poverty, our agenda in supporting the work in tackling the quality of housing and homelessness within our society, our work on welfare reform. It's all designed to make sure that we have a combined set of interventions to try to support the work that we are undertaking within the education service to try to tackle the presence and the effect of poverty on the educational attainment of young people. And what my Cabinet colleagues are committed to doing is to making sure that we work together in a collaborative way to try to transform the life chances of young people through the various policy interventions that we will make. Now, one of the key points I made earlier is about the centrality for me of the investment in the profession in ensuring that we have the quality of learning and teaching that is required to meet all of our objectives, whether it is to deliver the excellence to which young people are entitled or the equity to which young people are entitled. And over the course of this parliamentary term, I want to make sure that we take the very clear steps to strengthen the enhancement of learning and teaching within Scotland and ensure that we have in place the necessary interventions to support the profession. When I announced the proposals and sought agreement with our local authority partners to establish regional improvement collaboratives, what I had in my mind was the opportunity to create a platform for collaboration within the teaching profession to ensure that the best practice that is being developed in different parts of our education profession is able to be shared more widely across the education system in Scotland. Our International Council of Education Advisors, echoing what the OECD told us in 2015, encouraged us to create a more collaborative education system. And what the regional improvement collaboratives are designed to do is to ensure that teachers, classroom teachers, have a platform to ensure that they can engage in that collaboration to enhance their professional practice and to share that very widely within the education system. So for me, regional improvement collaboratives are not an exercise in bureaucracy, they're not an exercise in additional governance structures. What they are for me are spaces where the professional capability and capacity of the profession can have the opportunity to be shared more widely across the education system. And I encourage the teaching profession to engage strongly in the regional improvement collaboratives to ensure that that is the case. I also want to take forward the commitments that we have made and which I set out in the Next Steps document last June to create new routes for professional development for the teaching profession. We set out last June the different routes which we had observed in the education system in Singapore, where there are not just the route which exists within this country for professional development and enhancement within the education system of the route into administrative leadership, but also routes to develop subject specialism and subject leadership within our education system, and also to develop professional capabilities in the techniques of education and in the disciplines of education. And what I'm very keen to ensure is that those new career pathways are established in dialogue with the profession and taken forward within the profession as part of the work to invest in learning and teaching within Scotland. Because I think we have reduced unnecessarily the routes for professional development that need to exist within a system in which we celebrate the strength and the quality of classroom education, and we recognise that to be a significant attribute and strength in our education system. So in developing the new career pathways, I want to engage with the profession about how we do this, and I want to draw on international evidence and indeed also the experience which we had in Scotland with the Chartered Teachers Scheme to make sure that we design career pathways that deliver true progression and opportunity for individuals within the teaching profession. I want to make sure that we have in place the necessary steps to enhance leadership more generally within the education system, and the work of the Scottish College for Educational Leadership, which is now very much at the heart of the work of Education Scotland, is designed to make sure that that is the case. So as we take forward our work to support the development of the profession, whether it's on the into headship qualification or the work of SCEL, or whether it's about the new career pathways to provide greater opportunities for professional enhancement and reward and return within the classroom, I want to engage closely with the profession about how we do that, recognising how central that investment is to the design of a quality learning and teaching environment within Scotland. Now, in taking forward all of this agenda, whether it's about the agenda of excellence and equity for all, whether it's about the enhancement of the quality of learning and teaching within our education system, there will be challenges that we face as we embark on this agenda, and I want to take some moments to address some of the challenges which I can see within the education system and which I know present themselves to you into the bargain. When I spoke to your council not long after I was appointed as the Education Secretary, I made clear my commitment to tackling the issues of reducing the workload of the teaching profession, and we have taken some steps to do exactly that. But what I'm struck as I continue my dialogue with the profession is that we must continue to revisit that work on reducing teacher workload. I cannot take the view that having addressed some aspects of the reduction in the teacher workload, which we did in the early months of my period in office, it is necessary to return to that work on a periodic basis to make sure that our interventions are intensified to make sure that that work is effective. So I give you the commitment today that the work on reducing bureaucracy, which resulted in a significant reduction in the volume of guidance that was dispatched to the teaching profession, which I think there has been a noticeable difference in the course of the last 2 years. The clarity of direction set out in my letter to the profession in August 2016 and the guidance from the Chief Inspector of Education, that fundamentally the guidance to an empowered profession is that if something is not relevant to the learning and teaching journey of young people, then it shouldn't be part of the workload of individual teachers. I give you the commitment that I will return to the challenges of reducing bureaucracy and workload to ensure that it's reflected in the experience of the teaching profession. I acknowledge also the challenge of recruitment into the profession and the availability of teacher numbers within the profession. It is a source of great encouragement to me that we are seeing a rise in the number of teachers in the profession. Last year there was an increase of over 540, and indeed in the figures that we saw in December 2017, there was a 7.5% increase in the overall number of student teachers this year, with the development of new routes into teaching in collaboration with our schools of education, which are designed to create new opportunities for teachers to come into the teaching profession. And indeed, some of the reforms that I've made through the bursary interventions for STEM teachers are designed to encourage career changers to contemplate a move into the teaching profession. So there are a range of different interventions that I'm taking forward to strengthen recruitment into the teaching profession. and we will continue to explore where those opportunities arise, at all times insisting on the preservation of quality and the importance of professional assessment of the routes into teaching being undertaken by the General Teaching Council of Scotland. So the availability of teachers within the profession is a central element of our ability to deliver the quality of learning and teaching, and I'm committed to making sure that we have in place all of the necessary routes to enable that to be the case. And of course, we face other challenges which are very much the subject of debate just now, and that's around the whole question and significance of pay and salaries in relation to the recruitment and retention of teachers. And although the negotiations within the SNCT process are ongoing, I give you the commitment today that the Government is committed to working with our local authority partners in a constructive way, along with the professional associations, to reach an agreement which can meet the expectations of the teaching profession, and to do that in a fashion that encourages and incentivises more and more people to remain within the teaching profession and for others to come into the teaching profession. You will forgive me if I don't negotiate here on the SSTA Congress platform, but I do assure you that this is an issue that is very much on my agenda at the present time. So there are challenges in Scottish education. I accept that. But I think it's also important that we reflect on the strengths of Scottish education. And one of the great joys for me of my period, my 2 years as Education Secretary, has been to meet many of you in schools around the country, to meet your colleagues, to meet pupils and to meet parents, and to have the opportunity to see at first hand some of the real strength that exists in Scottish education. I do not accept the narrative that Scottish education is a system that is devoid of strength. I do not accept that narrative in any shape or form. I do acknowledge that we must constantly strive for improvement, but that is what every school in the country is working to do. It's what our local authority partners are in agreement with us about the importance of taking forward, that we have a constant focus on strengthening the effectiveness of Scottish education and of improving the system. But at a time when we find nearly 90% of pupils achieving CFE third level in all aspects in which they are assessed, or where we see higher passes exceeding 150,000 for the third year in a row, or where we see 60,000 skill-based awards being achieved by the young people within our diverse education system, and where we see positive destinations for young people at the highest level ever of over 93% and over 89% for young people from our most deprived communities. I think we can be confident that Scottish education is delivering many effective interventions to meet the needs of young people within Scotland. But the fact that we have achieved those levels of performance within Scottish education are a source of encouragement and confidence, but they cannot be a source of satisfaction. They must be the foundations of a drive for improvement. And that improvement can only come by an effective partnership between government, our local authorities and our teaching profession to make sure we are all working collaboratively and together on the mission of Scottish education to deliver excellence and equity for all. And that is the policy focus of government, it is the policy focus of Scottish education, and I know it is the driving focus of the teaching profession within Scotland. And what we have to work through and what we have to collaborate together to achieve is to ensure that we have in place the interventions that will enable us to succeed in that agenda and ensure that we can deliver the type of education system that truly can transform the lives of young people in Scotland, and particularly those that come from less advantaged backgrounds. That is the purpose and the drive of Scottish education, and I look forward to working with you in taking forward that agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr Swinney.